to get her started. At age 50 at the time, she took to the challenge like a bulldog to a bone. My brother Patrick and I were not surprised because our mother engaged fiercely with whatever she decided to do. Once she made up her mind to do anything, that was it. Who knew that our mother's life path would have such an impact on so many people? The cultural climate of the 1980s had women breaking barriers of all kinds where men were dominant. And still, Mom was busting into a new field, women's competitive bodybuilding. As her 22-year-old daughter at the time, I couldn't help but be startled by the changes in my mom's spirit, and most profoundly, the shifts and contours of her body. Within a few months, Mom met a few local powerlifters, one that was just here and bought a book. She worked out with these guys in a basement gym owned by Lou Corelli, a local Wenatchee resident. At that time, there were no gyms in Wenatchee. These tough guys gave her the foundation for Mom's weight training education. They urged her to challenge herself, and being competitive by nature, Mom pushed the bar as if these men were her equals, and most of them were young enough to be her kids. Within a year, she found herself entering her first bodybuilding contest. We fast forward to the year 1998. This was a year we would never forget. Mom and I decided to start our preparation for our bodybuilding season together. We surprised ourselves constantly in our unrelenting capacity to display discipline and hard work like no one else. We were equally dedicated allies and talked every day on the phone about anything and everything. Though we were 29 years apart in age, our commitment to winning and training put us on an equal playing field. As a result of our shared passion, like twin sisters, we decided to compete together at the same contests in 1998. Preparing together allowed us to feel empowered to enter and win the Masters and Grandmasters National Championships in Pennsylvania. After this, there was much media attention surrounding Mom and I. We went on to produce our DVD, which was called Training for the Ageless. We were in various magazine articles, on television shows, Ripley's Believe It or Not. This was all because of my mom, not because of me. She was the one that made things the most amazing. As time went on, I decided to focus more on working and my job as a personal trainer. Mom found out that she had a defective heart and realized that in 2001 she now had to have surgery. And by some freak of nature, she was able to compete again, mostly just to prove to herself and her peers that she was as able-bodied as ever. Being an unstoppable woman was just who she was. Then things started to change. In 2006, after the championships, trophies, and many TV appearances, Mom started to grow weaker and weaker. This was now related to her now very leaky mitral valve, which basically supplies blood and oxygen to the body. In 2007, Mom truly needed to receive outside care, something difficult for her to imagine. The illusion of mind over matter would never die in her, no matter how her body would try to prove otherwise. Still, we all decided that her next best action would be to move in with Mike and me. For Mom, this constant struggle was beyond agonizing. She was suffering emotionally as much as physically, and I was so aware of it, and it devastated us both. How does someone go from such a unique relationship of health, activity, and laughter to the drastic ups and downs of role reversal? Being fragile, having an illness without a cure was brutal very brutal for an unstoppable woman whose catchphrase was, "Aging is a disease, and I don't have it." The time was drawing near to her final days. I knew the inevitable was coming. My rock of a mother was going to die. And sure enough, 6 days after moving into the assisted living facility, Mom passed. But before the end came, Mom went into maverick mode by deciding to go shopping just one more time. Her best friend, Shauna, who's here today, was staying with her for the weekend. During their final visit, she spoke to Mom about comfort measures that would include morphine until the end. Mom's heart was working so hard and her breathing labored even with oxygen. As my brother, Sean, and I arrived at the shopping village, I went to help her out in the car. Instead, she looked into my eyes and said, "Honey, I can't live hooked up to any machine. This whole thing is just not for me anymore." So we went back to the assisted living facility. The morphine was started with very experienced nurses and staff. Mom was very lucky. She was able to be in her own little apartment, in her bed, with her cats cuddled up to her, as if they too knew what was to come. I remember telling my mom, because it was very important to her, that I would take very good care of Lori and Henry. Her response was, "I know you will, honey." Mom slipped into a coma and was gone 32 hours later. She never woke up, but we sat with her and continued to talk to her, lying next to her in the same bed. At approximately 2:30 a.m. on October 23rd of 2011, Mom took her last breath. Just before her passing, Patrick held her hand and said the Lord's Prayer. It was right after that Mom took to Ambien. They often wondered how she worked out and ate before and after competitions. In the next section of this book, I give you, through a series of case examples, various fitness methods to live by. Whether you are 9 or 99, there is a fitness routine for you. Basically, becoming or maintaining a fitness is forever lifestyle comes down to education. Strength training is not rocket science. Learning to live in a balanced and healthy way requires that we embrace and tap into our inner strength, something we all have. I'm sure my mom didn't know she had it when she was 45 or 50. As we all know, each one of us has greatness within. We all have the power to achieve. But in order to accomplish a lifestyle of fitness, hard work, commitment, and dedication, it will be non-negotiable. This is your time. You have one life. You deserve to live it to the fullest. So my mom's legacy to me is to pass on whatever information I can to you, to help you in any way I can, through this book, through our DVD, our website. I still call it our website, even though it's my website now. But I guess if there was one little thing that I would send with all of you today, is to know that it's kind of like paying yourself first. That's what fitness is. You have to schedule your time for you, and it's only an hour out of every day that you need to do that. But you have to put yourself on your planner. You have to make a date for yourself to go to the gym. And even if, you haven't done anything too rigorous or athletic in your life, start by taking a walk with a buddy, hiking. You have all this beautiful area here that, is available to you. You can ride bikes, you can hike, you can ski. And that's what Mom loved about Wenatchee. In fact, I would have to say that the 60 years that she lived in the Wenatchee area were the best years of her life, because she was able to become an athlete that she never knew existed within herself. So just know that you're all capable, and you're just takes making up your mind and taking that first little baby step called commitment. So thank you all. And now I'd like to ask any of you if you have any questions, conversation, whatever it may be. I'm here to answer whatever you might have on your mind, or if you have a story about my mom. If you knew my mom, I would love to know that. You knew my mom. Any questions?
Yeah, when, I don't think I've ever asked you this. So if she started lifting weight at 50, then how long after she started doing this did you get involved in that?
Well, shortly after that, Mom was 50, I was probably 22 at the time. And, I wasn't very athletic. I mean, I skied a little bit, that kind of rode horses as a kid. But I think what really changed my attitude about weight training is the changes that I saw in my mom. And the changes to her physique were dramatic. Her confidence level was different. Her spirit just grew, and she was just more outgoing. And I think Mom probably thought that the rest of her life she would just be a waitress trying to get by, and that was that. She didn't see herself as becoming an award-winning bodybuilder. She didn't see herself as being on TV or in magazines. And I think she just thought she was going to be a mom and eventually a grandma, and that was it. So she inspired me just by what I saw, the changes in her spirit and her body. So.
Was she always a vegetarian?
No, Mom wasn't always a vegetarian, but I would say most of her life she was. She worked hard at, eating the right food. She was amazing in how she was somewhat ahead of her time. Even as kids, I remember her buying the Adele Davis cookbook, which was published in 1947, and making us sweet germ brownies and yeast pancakes and all the things that were supposed to be good for you, and now we know are, good for you. So she was always ahead of her time that way. And so it wasn't surprising that she eventually became a vegetarian. And I think she became a vegetarian not so much that it agreed with her physically, but she loved animals, and she just didn't like eating anything with a face, as she put it. So she was very much, she didn't like eating anything with a face. So that was her. She was very involved in animal rights and that kind of thing. So she stood her ground. In fact, she wrote, I think, several articles in the Energy World. She was just an animal lover in general. So.
Yeah, that's how we first connected.
That's right.
They were friends, and then I remember driving her to Seattle, and on all the way there, as soon as we started, because we didn't have a lot in common as far as fitness, because I just really wasn't into it. But I always thought she was a great gal, but a little bit reserved. But as soon as we started talking animals, that was it. That was huge, floodgate of passion toward, love toward animals and saving them and doing what we can.
Yeah, she was really, really passionate about animals. She was especially a cat lover and had cats, and 2 or 3 usually at a time. In fact, we still have her 2 geriatrics, and they're going strong. So
she would feed the neighbor cats.
She would feed the neighbor cats. Yes,
Have all the feed.
She found out one just lived right up the cul-de-sac after about a year and a half of feeding it. She said, "Yeah, I found out Puddles had a home." I go, "Really? Where is it?" She goes, 2 doors down. So she was famous for feeding anything that came into her yard, and adopting cats and rescuing cats. So that was her passion. But she loved being at the gym. She loved being a fixture. She started working out actually originally at the Body Shop in East Wenatchee, which is no longer. After she had moved from Corelli's basement gym, she went to the Body Shop, and then from there she was pretty much a fixture at Gold's Gym on the west side. Unfortunately, she didn't get to work out at the new Gold's on the east side, which was right down the street from her house. But she did work out up to 1 month before she passed. and she took the access bus because she didn't drive anymore, and she was independent and made up her own mind right up to the end. But she also was very, very committed to fitness, and she planned her day around her workouts. So if it meant getting up at 4 in the morning and going to the gym, because that was the only time she could get her workouts in, that's what she did. And that's what she continued to do as much as she could up until the end, very end. So she, in fact, even the last month of her life, she liked to stay on a schedule. She knew when she had the most energy, so she would take the access bus to the gym, you know, around noon, and she, you know, went from 4 a.m. to noon, and that's when she had her energy. So, but she was very committed, very dedicated. Are there any other questions regarding fitness that any of you have? Routines, weight training?
What kind of things did she eat before workout?
Before her workout, if she was working out in the morning, one of Mom's favorite breakfasts was usually oatmeal and a couple poached eggs. And again, having a little bit of protein with a carbohydrate just seemed to agree with her. It also, what we found now later on is that you do need a certain amount of fat in your diet. That getting lean doesn't mean eliminating all fats, it means eliminating bad fats, but keeping the good fats in your diet. That, you know, things like even a few egg yolks, olive oil, coconut oil, avocados, nuts, things like that. So it's really important to not try to strip body fat by eliminating all your fats. It should be your good fats that you keep in your diet, especially if you're reducing carbohydrate intake. And I tell a lot of my clients, you know, just take a look at what you're eating and try to eliminate as much processed food as you can, because it's the processed food that's actually killing our society and creating such obesity in our kids. So, you know, try to eat as simple and clean as you can. If something has more than 5 ingredients, I say avoid it, you know, even if it's pasta. You know, moderation is the key. It doesn't mean that you have to never eat pasta. It means that, you know, maybe just not every night. That maybe a sweet potato might be better, a better choice occasionally. So, but yeah, nutrition really is 80% of your fitness goals. So if you're going to the gym and you're working hard and you're doing your cardio, you cannot sabotage that with eating bad. So if you're confused about how to eat correctly, I would say get together with either a personal trainer that's educated in that area or a good nutritionist. Because it seems to me as a personal trainer that that's the area that most people really get confused. When in my opinion, it's actually the most simple. Because if we go back to how we once ate, which was, you know, lean proteins, fruits, vegetables, there wasn't anything processed. There wasn't a lot of junk food. And that's really how we all should be eating now. And I think that it's coming full circle. You know, we're seeing healthier menus even at McDonald's. So it's great to have that awareness finally coming back into our society and hopefully eliminating some of these life-threatening diseases, diabetes, obesity, that kind of thing. So.
And they really need to do something with their choices.
It's terrible. And another problem is we are in a very sedentary time of our life. We do a lot of computers. When we were kids, we were out running around, you know, playing baseball or football or
riding bikes, hide and seek, kick the can,
riding horses. We would get in trouble if we weren't in by dark. You know, I remember, you gotta be in by dark. So, and now, you know, everybody is at their computer or their iPhone, and the kids are just not moving, and that's part of the problem. It's an epidemic. So, if you have kids, you know, encourage them, maybe as a family, to get out together and do something active, even if it's just on the weekends. You know, I know that a lot of you work, and it's a busy life that we all lead, and we're tired when we get home. but I really wish everyone could feel the energy that you feel when you do start to exercise and feel good. Because there's nothing, I can't explain that feeling to anyone. But once you experience it, it becomes addicting. You want those endorphins, you want to sweat, and you look forward to that. Not to mention all the other benefits that go with it, which are changes in your body, and how you think, how you're cognitively sharper, how much better sleep you get, that kind of thing. So it's really hard for me to pass that on, other than to say, give yourself a couple of months and be dedicated and consistent and give it a try. So. Any other questions?
Do you still do the weight lifting every other day, or how do you?
You know, it depends on the person. For me, I usually do every other day. But again, it doesn't have to be that way. You know, I structure my clients' workouts around their week. So if their week, you know, is good, 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 2 days off, so they have the weekend, then that's what we do. So you really there isn't really a cookie cutter program for everyone. But I would say if you can weight train at least 3 days a week, try to do your cardiovascular training at least 5 days a week for a minimum of 30 minutes. That, along with your flexibility. There are 4 components to fitness, and does anybody know what the 4 components of fitness are? Strength training, which is lifting weights, cardiovascular training, we all need to have healthy hearts and lungs, flexibility, and good nutrition. Those are the 4 components of fitness. It's easy. So if you think about just those 4 things and try to incorporate those 4 things in a balanced way in your daily life, I guarantee you within a couple months you'll not only look better, you'll feel better. And it's catchy. It's so catchy. Your family's like, wow, what is going on with her? I want to be like that. It's just exactly what happened to my mom. You know, she went from being just this kind of, you know, average person to somebody that had confidence, that looked great, that was challenging herself, and consequently she infected me with that same wonderful disease. Mom did yoga. Yeah, she did that actually later on, but you know, there's always basic stretching that you can do. The only thing that I can say about flexibility training is try to remember never to stretch a cold muscle. You always want your muscles to be somewhat warmed up, so you don't get up in the morning and immediately go onto the floor and start stretching. So you want to at least walk a little bit, get on a stationary bike, whatever it is, or even do your flexibility work after your weight training. That's probably the best time because your muscles are warm, you've got blood there, so your range of motion is better because you've been moving your body. But yes, yoga is great. I mean, I think that if you can, you know, take advantage of a good yoga class, you're doing yourself a huge favor. Mom really got into yoga. She was doing crow and all these things that I couldn't do when she was, you know, 80. In fact, she'd go to the gym and she'd say, Pauline, I can still do the crow. I'm like, how do you do that? So it's strength, it's flexibility, it's breath. Your breathing is really, really important when it comes to that. So. But there's lots of different things that you can do. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be in a class. So. But there's little nuggets of that in the book too, and on the DVDs. Any other questions? Anything that you can think of? Did you know my mom?
No,
Okay.
but there was an article